The storm rolled across the steppe like a living creature, swallowing the horizon in waves of black cloud. Thunder rolled over the endless grasslands, shaking the earth beneath the hooves of tethered horses. The imperial camp stretched for miles, a forest of felt tents and fluttering banners, each one marked with the symbols of conquest. Inside the largest tent, where silk walls muted the roar of the storm, the most powerful man in the world lay resting. Genghis Khan, conqueror of continents, master of the eternal blue sky, reclined on cushions of fur and embroidered silk. His face was older now, the skin weathered like cracked leather, his beard streaked with gray. Scars crossed his arms and chest, silent reminders of battles fought long before he became a legend. Beside him sat a young woman. To the guards outside, she was nothing special, just another captive from a defeated city. One more face among thousands taken during the long years of conquest. But her eyes did not belong to a slave. They were steady, watchful, and filled with memories that refused to die. 3 years earlier, she had stood on the walls of her city as the Mongol army appeared on the horizon like a moving shadow. Their banners were black against the sky. Their horses moved like waves across the grass. The city had prepared for a siege. The gates were barred. The towers were manned. The soldiers swore they would die before surrendering. But the Mongols did not fight like other armies. They surrounded the city and waited. Days turned into weeks. Food grew scarce. Wells were poisoned. Refugees crowded the streets. Fear spread faster than hunger. Then came the fire. Flaming arrows rained down from the night sky, turning rooftops into torches. Smoke filled the air, and screams echoed through the streets. The gates did not hold. When the Mongols entered, they did not come quietly. Hooves thundered across stone roads. Doors were broken open. Men were dragged into the streets and executed as warnings to others. The girl had watched from the palace balcony. She saw her brothers cut down in the courtyard, their bodies left where they fell. She saw her father, the king, dragged by his robes and forced to kneel before a Mongol commander. He did not beg, but he died all the same. Her mother did not wait to be captured. As the palace doors shattered beneath axes, she climbed the tower stairs and stepped onto the highest balcony. The girl followed, crying, begging her to come back. Her mother only smiled. "For honor," she whispered, and then she stepped into the empty air. The memory never left. The girl was taken that night, bound with silk cords, loaded into a wagon with other captives, and carried away from the only home she had ever known. 17 years old, a princess no more. The Mongol camps were not what she expected. There were no dungeons, no chains in the traditional sense. Instead, there were tents, thousands of them, each one filled with women from different lands. Chinese, Persian, Russian, Tangut. Some were noble women, others were peasants. All of them were prisoners of conquest. Some were given to generals as rewards. Some were sent to serve in distant stations across the empire. Others, the most beautiful or highborn, were reserved for the Khan's own court. She was one of those. Years passed in silence. She learned new languages, new customs. She learned when to speak and when to remain invisible. She learned how to survive in a world where power belonged to the strong and mercy was rare. But she never forgot the tower or the fall. Outside the imperial tent, thunder cracked across the sky. Rain began to fall in heavy sheets, drumming against the felt walls. Horses whinnied nervously, and guards pulled their cloaks tighter. Inside, the air was warm and heavy with incense. Genghis Khan's breathing was slow, deep, the breathing of a man who had fought 1,000 battles and believed he would fight 1,000 more. The girl sat beside him, her hands resting in her lap. Hidden deep within her braided hair was a thin sliver of metal, small enough to escape a careless search, sharp enough to pierce flesh. She had carried it for months, waiting for a moment when the guards were distracted, when the Khan was alone, when fate opened the smallest crack in the armor of the world's greatest conqueror. Tonight, the storm had given her that moment. The Khan shifted slightly on his cushions. His eyes fluttered open, studying her face. He did not see fear there, only stillness. He reached out, touching her chin, lifting her face toward his. In another life, in another world, she might have been a queen, a ruler of cities, a mother of princes. Here, she was only a possession. The Khan closed his eyes again, drifting back towards sleep. Thunder rolled across the steppe. Her fingers moved slowly, carefully, toward her hair. Each movement measured, each breath steady. She felt the cool metal hidden within a braid. The tiny blade pressed against her skin. For a moment, her hand stopped, not because she was afraid, but because of the weight of memory. Her mother falling from the tower, her brothers bleeding in the courtyard, the smell of smoke and ash, the sound of hooves on stone, all of it lived inside her. All of it rested in her hand. She pulled the blade free. The candlelight caught the metal, making it flash like lightning. She leaned closer to the sleeping conqueror, as if to whisper something gentle. "For my people," she breathed. The blade moved in a single, swift motion. The Khan's eyes snapped open, confusion turning to shock. His hands reached for her, but age and wounds had taken their toll. The strength that once broke armies could not stop a single determined hand. Blood spread across the silk cushions. The storm outside swallowed his final cries. For the first time in decades, the man who had made continents tremble felt helpless. Then he was still. The girl sat back, breathing hard, staring at what she had done. The conqueror of half the world brought down in a single heartbeat. She did not scream. She did not run. She simply stood. Outside, the guards huddled against the rain, unaware that the empire had just lost its master. She slipped through the tent opening and stepped into the storm. Rain soaked her clothes instantly, washing the blood from her hands. The camp stretched out before her, rows of tents glowing faintly in the darkness. Women moved between them, carrying water, tending fires, whispering in dozens of different languages. Some noticed her. They saw the blood. They saw the look in her eyes. No one spoke, but something passed between them, a silent understanding, a shared memory of lost homes and broken lives. She walked through the camp without stopping. Behind her, a shout rose from the imperial tent, then another, then the sound of running feet. They had found him. The camp began to stir like a disturbed nest. Torches flared. Horses stamped. Orders were shouted into the storm. But she kept walking. Beyond the edge of the camp, the land sloped down toward a swollen river. The rain had turned it into a roaring, churning beast of dark water. She stepped onto the muddy bank and looked down into the current. Behind her, the camp erupted into chaos. Trumpets sounded. Men shouted. The night filled with confusion and fear. She closed her eyes. "For my mother," she whispered. Then she stepped forward. The river swallowed her without a sound. By morning, the storm had passed. The sky was clear, as if nothing had happened. Inside the imperial tent, the greatest conqueror in history lay cold and still. His generals gathered in silence. None of them spoke the truth out loud. They could not. An empire built on fear could not admit that its master had been killed by a captive girl. So they created a different story, one of illness, or a fall from a horse, or a wound from battle. Anything but the truth. But among the women of the empire, the real story spread in whispers. From tent to tent, from caravan to caravan, from one conquered land to another. The princess who carried a blade, the girl who ended a conqueror. The night thunder swallowed a king. And centuries later, as millions of people carried the genetic mark of his conquests, another legacy survived in silence. A reminder that even the greatest empire in the world could fall to the hand of someone it believed was powerless.